And we are back with Steve Forbes on the line, twice a candidate for the nomination of the Republican Party for president, 1996 and 2000. I remember that. That wasn't that long ago, Steve. I remember you running.
Yes, well, to us it was only yesterday.
That's right.
Younger people have a different perspective.
You're not planning anything at the convention, are you?
No, that week, actually, that week of the convention, I'm going to be taking our grandchildren to Hershey Park in Pennsylvania.
I think that's a much better place to be. There won't be as many fireworks.
You're right.
Well, listen, I want to get back to the heart of the book you've written, Reviving America, How Repealing Obamacare, Replacing the Tax Code, and Reforming the Fed Will Restore Hope and Prosperity. Because, I mean, all of those things are what people want. And I know we could spend hours talking about just health care, but I want to turn our attention to the tax code. Now, I know that you are definitely a fan and a proponent of making it simpler and easier. And so I have to start with another one of these devil's advocate listener questions that somebody out there might be thinking, Steve, is, well, hey, listen, come on, what's wrong with the tax code? Can't we just make a few changes and not rip it all out by the roots? I mean, can't we just make some amendments to make it better?
Well, the tax code is an absolute monstrosity, a source of huge corruption, political power. Because it's so complex, you have to go to politicians to get help. The IRS doesn't know what's in the code. You call their hotline. If they deign to answer it, a fourth or a third of the time, they give you the wrong answer and hold you responsible for it. Yeah. And a couple of years ago, the head of a tax writing committee in Congress made a good faith effort before he retired to amend and try to rationalize the current tax code. His bill came to almost 1,000 pages.
Well, there you go.
1,000 pages to simplify something, you got a problem. So this thing was not designed by an irrational human being. It's just a playground for special interests. It's become a source of real aggravation and a huge waste of brain power. The IRS, for example, it estimates we spend 6 billion hours a year, 6 billion, filling out tax forms. We spend over $200 billion complying with this code. I just think of over the last 20 years, if those tens of billions of hours, trillions of dollars, all that immense brain power had been applied to new products, new services, new medical devices, new medical cures, how much better our lives would have been. So we advocate in the book, throw the thing out, start over with a simple flat tax, where literally you could do your tax return with a few keystrokes on the computer or a piece of paper, do it in a few minutes, and be done with it. And what we propose is a single rate, 17%. That applies only after generous exemptions for adults and for children. A family of four, for example, under our plan, would pay no federal income tax on their first $52,800 of wages.
Okay.
Above that, you'd pay only 17 cents on the dollar. There'd be no tax on savings, no death taxes. We believe you should be allowed to leave the world unmolested by the IRS. Do the same thing on the business side, cut the rate from 35 to 17, make our business tax code from one of the worst in the world to just about the best. Instant expensing for capital expenditures. You do that. Not only do you have a simplified code, not only do you remove a huge source of lobbying and corruption in Washington, but also more resources go to things to make our lives better.
Well, a lot of money comes back on shore, too.
Done it, so why not us?
Yeah, and a lot of money comes back to the United States from overseas, too, right? I mean, all these corporations that are...
You would be having a flood, not only corporations, but you think the Chinese are trying to get money out now.
Yeah.
What if we have that flat tax and the stable dollar? My God, China will be empty of money.
A few Swiss bankers may not be happy very, very much either with money leaving there and coming back. Well, the thing that I struggle with, and I know you have a better vantage point on this, Steve, is this whole concept of quote unquote paying your fair share, and that being an argument for the progressive tax system we have, and the concern I have about that is whenever you use the word fair, that means that's an opinion. Somebody has to adjudicate that. Somebody has to say what's fair and what's not, and I much prefer the idea of equal not being fair, because some of us hear fair that we think that means equal, but that doesn't necessarily hold true when you have thousands and thousands of pages and all of the special interests you mentioned before.
And it comes down to politics. In Washington or in the state capital, who's got the clout determines how those decisions go. So make it above board, simple, Everyone can see what you're doing. You make it, you pay it.
Yeah.
All income is taxed once at the source, and so in the so-called progressive code, it's designed in a way where if your pay goes up 10%, unless you got a good lawyer, if your pay goes up 10%, your liability, tax liability, because of the progressivity of the code, you get kicked into a higher tax bracket, goes up, say, 15%. So the government always comes out ahead. That's not right.
I think that the other thing that would be achieved if we did have something that was a lot simpler and people felt really that it was more fair, that I think the cheating would not be as much. I've seen people over the years, I'm sure you've heard of it as well, Steve, where people play games just to get what they feel like is basically giving themselves their own tax cut because they think it's too high.
Yeah, and it just gives you point out, a greater sense of fairness.
Yeah.
And people spend less time trying to get around it because it's just not worth their time.
Exactly.
Not worth the hassle.
And that really is the heart of it. Steve Forbes, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, chairman and editor-in-chief of Forbes Media, and the book, the latest in a series, actually has a number of other ones as well, How Capitalism Will Save Us, Freedom Manifesto, and Money. And the latest, Reviving America, how repealing Obamacare, replacing the tax code, and reforming the Fed will restore hope and prosperity. And we're going to grab another quick break. We'll come back and talk about the Fed. What in the world are we talking about? If you're not familiar, stay right there and you'll know after this quick word from our sponsors.